Before anyone knew a child was dead, the only thing rangers at Atwood Lake had was a golf cart. It was sitting half submerged near the shoreline, water up to its seat, and 3 teenagers were standing on top of it. They were soaking wet. They were not screaming. Nearby, their mother was calm, cooperative, and asking a paramedic if anyone had a glass of water. That is where this case starts. Not with a search warrant, not with a body, with a 911 call about a golf cart crash on a Saturday morning at a public lake in Ohio that looked at first like nothing more than an accident. It was August 23, 2025. Tuscarawas County deputies and park rangers responded to Atwood Lake after a report that a woman had driven a golf cart into the water with 3 teenagers riding in it. Atwood Lake sits about 82 miles south of Cleveland, the kind of place families rent a slip of shoreline and a campground loop for a weekend, not the kind of place anyone expects a call like this. On arrival, the scene looked survivable. The cart had struck a stone wall along the shore and gone into the lake, but it stayed visible, resting where the water was shallow enough to stand in. The 3 teenagers, a 15-year-old girl and 18-year-old twin brothers, climbed out on their own. None of them needed to be carried. None of them appeared injured. For a moment, the geography of the scene mattered more than anything anyone was saying. A stone wall, a shallow drop-off close enough to the dock to walk out of. A cart still upright with its roof above the waterline. It read, briefly, like a scene responders could close out within the hour. For a few minutes, this looked like the whole incident. Then responders started talking to the woman who had been driving. Her name was Ruth Miller, 40 years old, of Millersburg, Ohio. She was not resisting. She was not panicking. According to the sheriff's office, she began making what deputies described as concerning statements, and those statements did not fit a golf cart accident at all. She told them she had given her son to God. Investigators asked her to explain what that meant. On body camera footage later released by the Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Office, an officer can be heard asking her directly, "You gave him to God today?" Miller answered yes. Asked what she meant, she said it plainly. "I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God. He's sweet and I love him, but I gave him to God."
I gave him to God today.
You gave him to God today?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God. And people are going to tell me I am crazy, but he is real and he loves you. He really does love you. He loves you. And I doubted him. I doubted him so many times, but I am to tell you he is coming soon. He is coming very soon. Prepare your hearts. The end is close. And I'm for sure supposed to tell you that he does love you. Okay?
Ma'am, can you explain to me what happened? Who did you throw in the water?
I gave my son to God.
Your son?
Yeah.
Where's your husband?
He went for a walk this morning.
And you haven't seen him since?
Never come back. And we went to the boat and his clothes were there.
At that point, nobody at the scene had a body. Nobody had confirmed a missing 4-year-old. What they had was a woman on the ground, unbothered, telling them she had put her son in the water on purpose, using language that sounded more like testimony than confession. It got stranger. Miller also told officers her husband, Marcus, had not come back from a walk. "We went to the boat," she said, "and his clothes were there, and God told me he's in the lake and a fish swallowed him." That is not a detail investigators could have anticipated walking in. A missing husband, explained through a fish. Sheriff Campbell later confirmed that belief was not a passing comment. According to Campbell, one of the tasks the family had been directed to perform involved Vincen specifically being told he would be swallowed by a fish. When deputies said they would need to call in dive teams, Miller did not object. "Please do," she told them. "Get the best ones there are because this is a miracle from God. You will see." Notice the tense. She was not asking them to search for a body. She was asking them to confirm a miracle. That distinction is the entire case, compressed into one sentence, spoken before anyone else at the scene understood what they were actually looking for. That is the detail that stays with you. A mother sitting at the edge of a lake that, if her words meant what they seemed to mean, already held her husband and her son. To understand how a family ends up here, you have to rewind 2 days to a getaway that was never supposed to be about faith at all. Ruth and Marcus Miller, 40 and 45, were Old Order Amish from Holmes County, Ohio, an area with one of the largest Amish communities in the country. On Friday, August 22nd, which was Ruth's birthday, the couple brought their 4 children to Atwood Lake in a recreational vehicle. Their oldest 3, the 15-year-old daughter and the 18-year-old twin sons, came along, and so did their youngest, a 4-year-old boy named Vincen. By every account given afterward, this was framed as a family trip, a birthday, a weekend away from Holmes County. That framing did not last through the first night. According to Sheriff Orvis Campbell, around 1 o'clock in the morning, Ruth and Marcus walked to the dock together and jumped into the lake. Campbell later said the couple believed God was speaking to them, directing them to perform tasks that would prove their faith. Some of it, the sheriff said, was ordinary enough swimming exercises, nothing more. But one instruction was not ordinary at all. Miller told investigators she believed she could walk on water. When she tried it, off the end of that same dock, she simply fell in. After the two of them returned to the campground that night, Marcus told Ruth he was going back to the lake. He went alone. He did not come back. The next morning, the tasks did not stop. They moved to the children. Around 8:30 a.m., Sheriff Campbell said, Ruth placed Vincen on the golf cart, drove him back to the dock where she and Marcus had jumped in hours earlier, and drowned him there. 2 hours later, at roughly 10:30, she loaded her 3 older children onto that same golf cart and drove it into the lake, crashing it into the stone wall along the shoreline. This is the moment that finally brought first responders to the scene, not because anyone had reported Vincen or Marcus missing, but because a golf cart had just gone into the water with 3 teenagers on board. Look at the physical geography of where all of this happened. In a park spanning thousands of acres, the entire crisis concentrated around a single wooden dock. That dock was where Ruth and Marcus tested their faith at 1 a.m. It is where Marcus said he was returning when he left the campground for the last time. It was the platform Ruth used at 8:30 a.m. to put her 4-year-old into the water, and it was the landmark she drove toward 2 hours later with her remaining children. Like the golf cart that moved them all, that single structure became the epicenter of every decision made that weekend. Pause on that sequence for a second. By the time deputies and rangers arrived to deal with what looked like a crash, a 4-year-old and his father were already underwater. The people responding did not know that yet. The story they were walking into looked for a few minutes like a rescue. Campbell later described the surviving children as extremely confused. Their mindset, he said, was that whatever their mother and father told them to do was simply what happened. When they were told to get in the water, they got in the water. They did not question it. That detail matters because it reframes the golf cart crash. It was not a separate accident layered on top of a murder. It was the same instruction, applied a second time, to different children 2 hours after it had already killed one of them. This is where the case turns twice. The first turn is the discovery that nothing about that morning was accidental. Park rangers heard what the sheriff called concerning type statements almost immediately, and within minutes, deputies realized 2 people connected to this family, a husband and a young son, could not be accounted for anywhere on the property or the shoreline. The second turn is what the search recovered. Divers were called to the lake near the dock where the Millers had reportedly tried to walk on water the night before. Around 6 p.m. on August 23rd, a diver found Vincen's body on the lake bed, not far from the end of the dock. Early the next morning, divers found Marcus, roughly 53 yards out from where his son had been recovered. According to the sheriff, Marcus appeared to have drowned attempting to swim toward an offshore sandbar, a task Campbell said Marcus may have felt he had failed. He was disappointed in his performance, Campbell told reporters, a line that turns a father's death into another test that simply did not end the way the family believed it would. Ruth Miller was indicted on 7 counts, aggravated murder, murder, and felonious assault tied to Vincen, along with child endangering and 3 counts of domestic violence tied to the golf cart crash involving her surviving children. The legal process that followed did not take the form of a standard trial. Miller formally waived her right to a jury trial, placing her fate entirely in the hands of the court. Judge Michael Ernest weighed the case based on 5 key pieces of evidence submitted into the record, 2 law enforcement incident reports, and and 3 independent psychological evaluations. While the mental health experts differed on the precise diagnosis, debating whether her presentation stemmed from bipolar disorder with psychotic features or severe schizophrenia, they reached a unanimous consensus on 2 critical points. Ruth Miller was suffering from severe mental disease at the time of the acts, preventing her from understanding their wrongness, and she presented an ongoing danger that required secure inpatient commitment. Based on those findings, the court entered a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. At her placement hearing, the court formally ordered her confined to Heartland Behavioral Health in Massillon, with mandatory judicial reevaluations scheduled at 6 months and every 2 years after that. But the order ran into an immediate practical hurdle. The state facility had no open beds and a growing waiting list. Until a bed opens, Ruth Miller remains where she has been since her arrest, held inside the Tuscarawas County Jail, not free, but not yet at the psychiatric facility ordered by the court. The lead investigator on the case, Captain Adam Fisher of the Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Office, said Miller repeatedly told investigators she had thrown her son off the dock to give him to God. What stood out to Fisher was not just what she said, but how she said it. It did not appear that the gravity of the situation had sunk in, he told reporters. The Millers' church released its own statement distancing the deaths from Amish teaching. The events at the lake, church representatives stated, do not reflect our teachings or beliefs, but are instead a result of a mental illness. They added that the ministry and extended family had been walking with the couple through their challenges and that the Millers had also received professional help in the past. Whatever was happening inside that family before August 22nd, it was reportedly not invisible to the people around them. It simply was not enough to stop what happened at the dock. There is a version of this case where the golf cart is just a golf cart, a vehicle that crashed at a campground. Look at it again. It carried Vincen to the dock alone that morning. 2 hours later, it carried his 3 siblings into the same lake. It is the one object in this entire case that touched every child in the family, and it is the reason anyone came looking at all. Without that crash, without 3 teenagers climbing out of shallow water on their own, there is no 911 call, and the search for Marcus and Vincen may not have started that day. Here is what the public record actually establishes, without speculation. A family drove to a lake for a birthday weekend. By the second morning of the trip, a father and a 4-year-old son were dead, both drowned during what the surviving mother described as tasks to prove faith to God. That is what was reported in the investigative files and captured on the body camera footage, a mother asking for water, kneeling to pray with a paramedic, and instructing rescuers to pray for her before anyone had confirmed a child was missing. A court has since determined what she is not criminally responsible for under the law. What it could never resolve is what remained in her mind as she sat on that shoreline waiting for divers to confirm a miracle that was actually a recovery.